We were moving all the time. As fast as the Germans were moving, we were moving.
We were never to tell anybody what we did.
I don't think any of us knew what we were getting into.
80 years since the end of the Second World War, and the memories persist. Vivid ones of campaigns fought, wrenching ones of friends lost. And in the lands Canadians liberated, memories passed down through generations.
Thank you for being here.
Our armies turn to drive to a greater objective.
Canadians have stood on front lines from Europe to Korea to Afghanistan, helping to shape a world now being reshaped by newer conflicts. Their sacrifices in the name of freedom and security are remembered today.
He is Canada's lost son no more.
With grand moments and monuments and small, heartfelt acts, reverence and admiration in it all. As the years tick by, personal memories of the brutality of war will necessarily fade, but the deep respect for all the soldiers have done clearly has not. This is the National Remembrance Day Ceremony in Ottawa. And this is the scene right now here at the National War Memorial in the center of Ottawa. Veterans, politicians, and civilians alike all together here to honor the sacrifices and the stories of Canadian veterans on this snowy Remembrance Day. Hello, I'm Adrienne Arsenault. Thank you for joining us here in the nation's capital. Ahead of us, a day full of reflection, of gratitude. The roots of Remembrance Day stretch all the way back to the end of the First World War, the armistice coming on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month. But there is extra attention being paid right now to the Second World War. That's because this year marked 80 years since that war ended. More than 1 million Canadians fought. That was 10% of the population of the whole country at the time. Hard to imagine the impact of that. Not hard to imagine the pain of war, though, because many have been fought since, and they are still being fought. By my side today, we're joined by Andrew Birch from the Canadian War Museum. Andrew, as we sit here, your first thoughts today?
Well, it's one of the colder Remembrance Days I've been to in recent memories, but it's very warming to see all these people assembled to pay homage to the day, which is really quite heartening. And we are now 80 years since the end of the Second World War, where 47,000 Canadians did not return home. And we are living in the world that we've inherited from them, that their sacrifice shaped, and that Canadians in the years since in Korea and the Gulf War and Kosovo and Libya and Afghanistan and elsewhere, peacekeeping operations around the world, have helped to shape and helped to regulate and tried to keep the faith with those young men and women who so long ago served. So it's a very solemn occasion today, but one that's, I think, very important to keep at the forefront of our thinking, that not just those veterans who have passed, but those who are yet to come.
They set the table for who we are and what we have.
Exactly.
All right, so the national ceremony will start at the top of the hour, and very soon you'll see the dignitaries begin to arrive. Now, interestingly, today the Governor General's role will be filled by the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. That's because Mary Simon has been recovering in hospital from a respiratory virus. The ceremony here that you will see is grander in scale, certainly, than others, but it will follow largely the same formula as those other ceremonies at cenotaphs across the country. So we'll hear the last post, the lament, the rouse, the soundtrack of ceremony that reminds us of what's been lost. So we have several people on the team today as we cover the events here and elsewhere, including right here in Ottawa, Ashley Burke and David Thurton. So Deanna Sumanek-Johnson and Lisa Shing will be covering events elsewhere this morning. So hello to all of you. And Ashley, here in Ottawa, can we start with you, please, and who you're with?
Well, Adrienne, I'm with retired Private John Priest. He's one of just a few Second World War veterans who are here today.
Yes.
You joined the forces when you were just 17 years old.
Yes.
Describe what that was like and what today means to you.
What?
What does today mean to you? What are you thinking about today when you
Well, this is a shame that we have to have so many people dead in moments like this. What is it now? People don't understand what these boys went through a lot of times. It's not very pleasant being in a war. It's rainy. All I remember is it's cold and rainy. I landed in Europe to get into Holland. It was December or January, a cold, very cold time.
And you fought to help liberate the Netherlands. You had a friend named Walter that you wanted to tell a story about today.
Oh, Walter. Well, Walter, he was a soldier just like me, but he was much older than me. He's 32, I remember, because I remember I asked him about how old he was, why he was there. I thought he was very old at 32, because I was about 18 or something.
And what did you want to tell people about Walter? What he did that day? About Walter.
About Walter? Oh well, he noticed I didn't have my
Your shovel.
shovel. That's right. Good man. Good girl. You have a good memory. Yeah, and he gave me the shovel, and I said, "You're crazy. You need that shovel because when you hit the ground, you need to start digging and get." And people don't think about that. That's a rotten part of war, is staying alive when you're there.
Your wife also told me that you learned a lot on the battlefield that you share with others. What did you learn?
I what?
You learned a lot on the battlefield. What do you want to share with others?
What do I want to show them?
Share.
Who?
About your lessons on the battlefield. Your wife said you had some that you like telling people about.
Well, she thinks it's wonderful that Walter was killed that next day, and I can remember going over there and wondering. I was very young. It's a lot of things happening when you're young. It's not good for you. It took me a lot of years. I think I've grown up more in the last 5 years than I have all this. I'm 99 now, as you know, and. I've learned more lately than I have before. I seem to be always learning, but I didn't know the value of a lot of values that I appreciate now.
Last year, there was this remarkable moment at the end of the ceremony where I remember you got up, your son-in-law helped you walk down, and you joined the end of the Veterans Parade. What was that like?
What do you mean?
What did it feel like to be able to join that parade last year?
Oh, well, I'm glad to be with people like myself. All ages and all sizes and everything. We tend to feel that we're all looking like John Wayne or Kirk Douglas or something, and those names don't mean much to you, I'm sure, long before your time. And so, therefore, those are the things I think about how they belong there. We all belong together, and most of us don't know what the heck happens. You get into war and you're not prepared for fighting. Very many of us grow up to be fighters.
Well, thank you for sharing your story with Canadians today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for
Mr.
asking
Priest.
for me. I'm always glad to see you.
You too. Thank you.
Okay.
Adrienne, that's retired Private John Priest, one of the few Second World War veterans that are here celebrating in person today.
Oh, Ashley, the amazing, charming warrior sprite that is the spirit of John Priest. Thank you very much. It is fantastic to hear these stories and to be reminded that these older men, the notion of when they were 18 is so alive for them and what they went through. So thank you very much to both of you. We're joined now here by the Royal Canadian Legion's Dominion President, Berkeley Lawrence. Thank you for being with us, Berkeley.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
This is only your second Remembrance Day in this position that you're holding.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, what does Remembrance in 2025 feel like to you?
Well, we just left the Chateau Laurier, where 400 students were over there showing 11 videos. So this year I'm reflecting on the youth, how the Legion promotes remembrance amongst the youth, and just leaving that program tells me that I think our future of remembrance is secure.
That's got to be a pretty good feeling.
It is an amazing feeling. Great to have the students from our contest here. Great to have the top cadets from across Canada here. It's a big concern of the Legions. How do we promote not only to the new Canadians and people coming to Canada immigrating, but amongst our youth? How do we keep that remembrance going? So that's what I think about this year more than last year or any other year.
So Berkeley, as we look at these veterans who are arriving here today, and we listen to John Priest, how do you think veterans are holding up? What do you think they need the most right now?
Well, they need support, obviously. Recognition is always a great thing. It's lovely when someone comes up and says thank you for your service, just because they see the medals hanging on our chests. I'm glad to see more and more modern day veterans, for lack of a better term, to call us guys that served in my age group. And it's great because only a couple of years from now, we're not going to have any more Second World War veterans around. And we know what we went through when John Babcock died. It's great to see more and more veterans coming out across Canada, not only here in Ottawa, but in all the towns and legions. More and more modern day veterans are coming out and getting involved.
And I guess as we look at these people, and some of them are young, we are in a world where the world is considering more war.
Yes.
That more war is upon us, and service members even in this country are being asked to do more to fight wildfires, evacuate Canadians from harm's way. Do you think about the future veterans?
No, I think we're secure in what we're doing. Veterans Affairs is doing a better job year by year of looking after our veterans. The world situation, of course, as you know and as you report, is a terrible, terrible thing. I have a nephew on his way to Latvia next week. My son's been on 6 missions since he joined up.
Wow.
So it's I don't know if you'll ever find a day when there's not a turmoil somewhere in the war. Luckily, with Canada's reputation of being the country that we are, I feel secure that we will make our contribution no matter where it is in the world.
Well, you and your family have certainly done that. You continue to do that. Thank you for your service.
Thank you for having us here.
Lovely to see you, Berkeley.
Thank you very much.
Take care. So that is Royal Canadian Legion's Dominion President, Berkeley Lawrence. Why don't we head out to the crowds again to David Thurton, who is covering the people who every year find the time and the determination to be here no matter what. David?
Hey, Adrienne. Yeah, the crowds are starting to gather ahead of the ceremony. And, as always, every year we love to pick out a couple of special guests to join us on the program. And today we have Eleanor McEwen. Thank you so much for joining us. The thing about Eleanor is that this year she's celebrating 60 years, her 60th birthday, April 30th, if I had that right. And how did you decide to mark your 60th birthday?
Well, in that year, I chose a number of bucket item lists that I wanted to accomplish, and this was the year to do Remembrance Day. I've been part of Remembrance Day services. I haven't missed very many. I remember being a little brownie going in parades and attending our local cenotaph, which is Fordwich, Ontario, spending that time often with my uncle Garfield. And so this year I decided to go to 60 cenotaphs and bring that memory and the honor of.
And you have pictures of each of those cenotaphs. Can you just show it to us, real quick?
This is my hometown, Fordwich. And along with me today, I bring my grandfather and a couple of other special veterans I know, Walter, who I nursed one time to help prepare to go to a service, and Bill Smith, a family friend who I took to Legion services a few times before he passed. And I went to 59, and this is my 60th today, all across southwestern Ontario. And
this is your 60th here in the nation's capital for the national ceremonies.
Yes. And in my path, I have bringing along the honor of 8,033 soldiers whose names are on the cenotaphs I visited.
Eleanor, thank you so much for joining us. That's quite an accomplishment.
Thank you.
60 visits to 60 memorials and cenotaphs. Adrienne, I'll send it back to you.
Thank you, David. That is astonishing, and a reminder that remembrance is an act, and say the names, say the names. This is what veterans always ask us to do. As we talk of the end of the Second World War today, we were very lucky in May to travel with a number of this country's Second World War veterans to see how they were passionately celebrated and thanked in the Netherlands for their work 80 years ago, liberating that country from the Nazis. And while we were there, it became very clear that many of the older veterans were accompanied by younger vets, and that the bonds between these men are real and strong. So let's take a closer look at that relationship. In the event, you saw Canadian Second World War vets being celebrated as liberators in the Netherlands. You surely noticed a few things. The reverence for these men, yes.
Thank you very much.
The crowds, absolutely. But did you notice those alongside the old soldiers? Paul Clark with 99-year-old Ernie Wiles. Kent Griffiths, always next to George Morash, who's 102. The younger men vets themselves on another mission now. Battle buddies.
It's a part of my routine, and I just love to see him, and he loves to see me, and we go out and do things together.
So you're kind of his person now?
Yes, I'm his person, and he's my person.
Kent and George are both Calgary Highlanders, one who saw action and horrific losses in Normandy and the Netherlands, one who served in Afghanistan.
He doesn't have any children, he doesn't have any living brothers or sisters, so I thought I would help fill that void and go over and visit him.
What can I say? I love Kent.
Do you find, Kent, soldier to soldier, that there are things you can talk to George about that maybe you don't talk to others about?
Absolutely. I'm his confidant, he's my confidant. We've gone through similar things. I certainly wasn't in a war like George and didn't have to watch my buddies die in front of me. So he's a tough man, but the memories, they come back. And every now and then we'll have a little cry together, and that's not a bad thing at all.
George, does it help having Kent here to be able to talk soldier to soldier?
Yes. I don't know what I'd do without Kent.
This is my duty in life right now, is to be his friend and to make sure that he's feeling valued as a veteran, because he's a hero.
These are extraordinary relationships, and Andrew, we want to take a brief moment to talk about another very special relationship. Someone who has joined us for many special anniversary broadcasts, joined Rosemary for a decade of Remembrance Days. We're talking, of course, about Chief Historian at the Canadian War Museum, Tim Cook. Anyone who has read Tim's words or listened to him speak knows he had this really colorful, expressive way of connecting the past to the right now. Remembrance was a duty. It was a pleasure for Tim. He was going to be sitting right here today with us, but Tim died last month at the age of 54. We are thinking of his mom, his wife, his 3 daughters, his big, beautiful family, and all his friends and colleagues, and that includes you, Andrew. Thank you for being so gracious in being here. And I wonder if there's anything you want people to know about Tim today.
Well, I certainly feel a little unequal to the task, because he impossibly enormous shoes to fill. Tim was a huge believer in stories, in research, and he didn't feel that research was any good unless you were sharing those stories and getting them out there. He had a passion for people to understand how war had shaped this country, and also to understand that the people who fought those wars were people first. They were they didn't want to go to war in all cases. They all wanted to come home, and not all of them could. Mm-hmm. And so we miss him so much at the Canadian War Museum, and I think that we will miss him a great deal as we are kind of going forward and grappling with our ongoing military history. We've lost a tremendous storyteller and an enormously warm and generous and caring person as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, Tim said of the, sometimes grueling schedule of live TV that he was always happy to do it because he told us that he thought this was the best way to reach the greatest number of people and to share this country's history because, as he said, if we don't do it, who will? We suspect Tim would not have liked us talking about him today, but few people did more to keep this country's history alive. So thank you, Tim, for all you did to share veterans' stories. You are very, very missed. This is Ottawa and the National Remembrance Day Ceremony at the War Memorial. People from across the country come to this cenotaph every year to reflect and remember those who served and sacrificed. So let's go out to our Ashley Burke, who has an important voice to hear from this morning. Ashley?
Hi, Adrienne. I'm with Canada's top soldier, the Chief of Defence Staff, General Jenny Carignan. What do you think about today? How do you remember yourself personally?
Good morning, Ashley. It's always an honor to have the opportunity to be here today for this very special event. For me, it spans from past, present, future. So many things collide together on a day like today, remembering the past sacrifices and generosity, the selflessness of the veterans who have fought for us to give us the world that we live in today. Today's service, where a lot of Canadians are still contributing in that way, and then the future, what we need to do to get us ready for the future. So such a special day today.
The number of Second World War veterans is dwindling. There are 2 here with us today that I've seen so far. How is that changing the way we remember, and what role do you think that the Afghan veterans will play in how we do that?
It's such a privilege, again, to have them join us today, 80th anniversary of the end of the Second World War. Of course, veterans are changing. The face of veterans is changing over time. And I think it's important to remember the consequences of conflict, what it has on society and on people and on humans, generally speaking. And veterans are here to remind us of that.
There are more conflicts in the world right now, and NATO has talked about how they want Canada and its other members to modernize and to have a plan to be ready. There are reports that you are working on a modernization plan. Can you describe what that looks like for Canadians?
So it is clear that since the Cold War, the situation has changed, and as of the last few years, what we've been asked to do over this past 35 years has greatly changed in terms of mission. So a counterinsurgency mission in Afghanistan, for example, is different than the type of conflict that we are seeing on the horizon today. And you need to be equipped, structured, and organized differently to face the type of threat that we are facing today and in the future. So this is what the transformation is all about. It's about expanding the CAF, expanding our mandate here in Canada, and also our commitments to NATO and NORAD as well.
And when do you think that realistically Canada would be ready and at full strength to respond if it was ever potentially drawn into a conflict in the near future?
So this is always there's always a short, mid, and longer term vision to get to where we need to be. But we are ready as we are now. But then over time, we need to consistently prepare to do this. So of course, I'm mostly looking at the 5 and 10-year horizon to basically work on the structures and the equipment that we need to do that, and mostly the people to do this.
And what else do you want Canadians to know today? We're at this moment in history where the military has a lot of money that is going to be given or that's being set aside to really modernize and change. What do you want Canadians to know about that?
I think it's important to understand the important role that the military plays within a nation and for society. The opportunities for service and career in the Canadian Armed Forces. But again, a society that can own its sovereignty and then react to any form of crisis is incredibly important for the country. So I think this is important, and I think Canadians do realize the situation that we find ourselves in globally, where it has become more unstable and dangerous over the past few years with the rise of various authoritarian regimes that are now taking actions to harass and even invade other countries.
How concerned are you about that?
Well, we are monitoring this very closely. That's what we do on a daily basis. We make sure that we are in line and understand what the various threats and scenarios are, anticipate, and then prepare for that.
Thank you for your time. That's the Chief of Defence Staff, Adrienne.
Ashley, thank you very much. We're just watching some of the people, you just saw some of the folks standing sentry at the cenotaph. We're watching people get into formation. We're about 12 minutes away from starting to see some of the first dignitaries arrive here. And as we look at these pictures, let's take a moment and go back out to David Thornton, who has some more people with him. David?
Hey, Adrienne. You know, Ashley, my colleague, was chatting with the current Chief of the Defence Staff. I'm going to introduce you to someone who might be the future Chief of the Defence Staff. I don't know. I kind of gave you a promotion. This is nowhere. He's 15, turning 16. He is do I have this right? A Sea Cadet?
Yes, exactly.
And you're from Montreal?
Exactly. Boisbriand, from Quebec.
And from Quebec, excuse me. And this is your second Remembrance Day here in the nation's capital. Not all young people are interested in careers in the armed forces, but you are. Just tell us how you got interested.
So I want to become a warfare officer, hopefully in the future. So since I'll be exiting the cadet program, I'll be going in the military. So I think it's very interesting, the military program, and I think it's important for me as a nation, as a whole, to be there for the nation and to have a purpose on the in Canada. So I think it'll be important to become a warfare officer and to help the Royal Canadian Navy.
When you talk to your friends and you tell them that you're in cadets, that you're interested in career in the forces. What do they say? Do they have your similar interest as well? Do they want to join?
They're interested, so they have opinions on the each branch of the military. So some want to join the Navy, the Royal Air Force, and the Army. So many people of my friends ask me questions of how is the military? Is it strict? Is it like a family? And I tell them, yes, it's like family, and they treat you like you are, and they're more like a gentle program.
You know what? Thank you so much for joining us. You know what? Stay warm. It is a very cold Remembrance Day in Ottawa, and thanks for joining us. You know, Adrienne, like I just mentioned in the interview here, there are a lot of young people that, you know, maybe aren't as interested as in previous years in the Canadian Armed Forces. The Auditor General recently just did a report saying that, you know, there are recruitment issues with the forces, but, you know, folks like Noah are trying to turn that around. I'll send it back to you.
Indeed. David, thanks very much. And we're seeing so many young faces in the crowd today. This is an important part of remembrance because, of course, all these men and women from wars past were very young themselves when they had the hardest days of their lives. One person in particular who knows that very well is a guest of our friend Lisa Shing, who's at the York Cemetery in Toronto. Lisa?
Hi there, Adrienne. You're right. I am joined by Ed Stafford, a World War II veteran. He is 104 years old and also a member of the Governor General's Horse Guard. Ed, thank you so much for coming out today and joining me.
It's nice to be here.
You have come to York Cemetery for at least the last 5 years for Remembrance Day. Yes. Why is that important to you?
It's important because it's nice to see everyone, and it's it's a thing to do on this particular day. Yeah.
When you wake up on Remembrance Day like this one, what goes through your mind? What do you think about?
Well, all the guys that didn't make it, of course. That's the first thing. I know so many of them, and it's good to honor them at least once a year, you know.
And Ed, do you have any memories, a particular memory of your time overseas? Because you went as a young man, you saw combat in Italy. Are there any memories of your time over there that stand out to you?
Oh, a lot of them. Some of them are not so nice, you know. Like the time that 16 of our guys got killed in one explosion. And I took the, I wasn't in it, but I took the pottery up there afterwards, and I saw all my friends. I had been in B Squadron, so I knew a lot of them, and to see them all laying on the ground, sewn up in a blanket, it was devastating, to say the least. But
it must have been.
It's of course there were other things, but I think that's the one that I remember the most.
And you actually went back many years later in 2019 to remember them with young and old.
Yes, yes. Accompanied by my daughter, and we visited many of the places that we had been before, and we had one time we just had the regiment, and it was great on that one. That was just one of the better ones. Yeah.
Well, Ed, thank you so much for your time today. Adrienne, Ed Stafford, 104 years old, a member of the Governor General's Horse Guard, a World War II veteran, here to attend the Remembrance Day ceremony at York Cemetery in Northern Ontario. Northern Toronto, I should say.
You could be forgiven for thinking it's Northern Ontario with the snow. And we are all big Ed Stafford fans over here. Please give him our love and thank you, Lisa. I can tell you a story about Ed Stafford.
I will.
He is someone who often says the name Herbie Stitt. You will hear Ed say that name often because Herbie was one of his great friends who survived a horrific battle and then died one of those terrible deaths of war. He was run over by a truck while he was sleeping after surviving a horrific battle. And Ed always talks about Herbie because, again, these veterans want people to keep saying the names of their buddies. These events, for a lot of people, though, can feel like a distant memory, a story someone else tells you. But at schools across the country, the memories are very much being kept alive by acts of remembrance, big ones, small ones. So let's head over to Garth Webb Secondary School in Oakville, Ontario. That's named after a veteran of Juno Beach who actually founded the Juno Beach Centre in Normandy. So it's at that school where we find Deanna Sumanak-Johnson. Good morning, Deanna.
Good morning, Adrienne. Well, David Thurton already mentioned young people and how, perhaps surprisingly to some, they still have such a connection to the war, even if they, in fact, do not have family members that have fought in Canada's First and Second World War. Here at the Garth Webb Secondary School, they think about Remembrance Day throughout the year. There are beautiful poppies everywhere. Their sports teams actually have poppies printed on their jerseys. There are poppies on school windows, and that is happening throughout the year, but never more so than on Remembrance Day. I want you to see this project right here, shipping labels. The project called Sincere Regards, where students got to write their thoughts about the war. I want to talk to Rehan Singh. He's a grade 10 student. Thank you so much for making time for us, Rehan. Tell me a little bit about what's on your shipping label.
So on my shipping label, on one side I have the word peace written, and on the other side I have the word war written. And on each side, on the side that has the word war written, I have words such as tension, anger, and conflict to represent that word. And then on the other side, where it says peace, I have words such as happiness and joy to kind of convey that meaning.
Yeah, convey the meaning of what it means to Rehan, who was born in 2010, Adrienne, but who connects to the war like his fellow students do, thanks to the efforts of their history teacher, Mr. Ian Duncan. Adrienne.
Deanna, thank you very much, and thanks to all the students there. We talk a lot about traditions on this day, so here's another one. Each year, the mother of a soldier killed is asked to stand as the National Silver Cross Mother. And this year, it is a remarkable woman whose name is Nancy Payne. Her son, Corporal Randy Payne, was killed in action in Afghanistan on April 22nd, 2006. Randy died along with 3 other soldiers when a roadside bomb hit their vehicle en route to the Kandahar airfield. Well, today, Nancy Payne will place a wreath on the War Memorial, and for a year, she will represent all mothers who've lost a child in uniform. We spoke just a few weeks ago. Here's some of that conversation.
Yeah, I just never thought I'd be one of them. Yeah, but I'm very honored.
I'm sure you never thought you'd be in this position in the first place.
Exactly, yeah. I'll never forget that phone call, yeah. So I was home alone in Innismore, just outside Peterborough, and the phone rang at 3 or 3:30 in the morning, and it was Randy's boss. He said, I have some information to pass on to you about Randy in Afghanistan. Well, when you get a phone call at that hour of the morning about your son, I thought maybe he was hurt. And then he told me, I remember saying, oh, not Randy, oh, not my Randy, not my Randy.
Nancy, that's a lot of time to be in the house by yourself in the middle of the night with information like that in your head.
Yeah.
How did you get through that?
Well, I guess I must be stronger than I think I am.
Maybe you can sense from Nancy that she's a serious soul who can still find a smile quickly. She says that's what Randy was like too.
He always had a big grin in his eyes. He was a charmer. He really was a charmer, yeah. They do a thing on the bases there on a certain day called the pain train. Okay. And they have to do so many push-ups and so many sit-ups in a certain length of time. And I think they curse Randy every year. It's quite grueling.
He smoked them every year?
Yeah.
She will tell you, she still senses Randy everywhere. Is pretty sure she knows what he would make of his mom laying the wreath on Remembrance Day at the National War Memorial as the Silver Cross Mother, there to stand for and with all those others. What would he be saying to you? Would he be saying, Mom, stand up straight?
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Oh, he'd be very, very proud of me, I think. Very happy. You could do it, Mom. You could do it. Yeah.
And you can.
And I have to.
And as we look at the crowds, which have been thickening over the course of the morning, which is a fantastic thing to see. I know that, Andrew, you just saw Nancy Payne. How's she holding up?
Yeah, I had the privilege of touring her through the Canadian War Museum yesterday afternoon, and she was, as you saw in the clip there, of enormously generous spirit and good humor, and is undergoing quite a rigorous itinerary in the lead up to Remembrance Day. She was there with members of the Cadets of Canada and the Youth of Canada, and she was taking very seriously her duty to represent all those who've lost someone in conflict, as taking on that role. It's quite a difficult one, but she takes the duty very seriously and with grace and good humor.
And we will see her arriving relatively soon. I mean, the stories, I suppose, of war and loss and survival and remembrance are of all these ordinary people thrust into these horrifically extraordinary circumstances.
Absolutely, and it comes through in all the stories every year with the Silver Cross Mother, that they're from communities across Canada. They've got some of them are from military communities. Some of them their child decides they're gonna buck tradition and join the military, and others they're following in the footsteps of family members. And those stories really do come out through the testimony of the Silver Cross Mothers, which have been a tradition since 1936, and of which I think the last 20 years, I think all but 2 or 3 have been mothers of Afghanistan casualties. So it is a really striking representation of the cost of the conflicts to which Canadians contribute.
What a terrible club to be a member of.
I think there's some solidarity to be found there in terms of it's some ways a solitary experience, because it is something that you don't have that. You have a groundswell of community support, but not everyone shares in that loss. So having people, much as veterans, having that shared experience may provide some solace, but everyone's walking down a different path, of course. It's a challenging one.
Indeed. Just to bring everyone up to speed, in about 2 or 3 minutes, we will start to see the arrivals of the dignitaries. We'll see the Prime Minister. Certainly, we will see the National Silver Cross Mother, Nancy Payne. You will see the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, Richard Wagner, taking the place of, as a deputy, if you will, for the Governor-General Mary Simon. We all wish her well. She has been recovering from a respiratory virus in hospital, and she needs to get better. So this is a position that he will fill for her. Typically, the Governor-General will arrive as the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces wearing a uniform. That will not be the case with the Chief Justice. It's not a similar position. Then there will be the parade to attention. We'll hear "O Canada," and the ceremony itself will begin, and we'll be, like you, listening listening to it quietly, and we will try not to step on any of it. Some of the veterans we see here, we have seen quite a few Indigenous veterans today. This is the first year that Indigenous Veterans Day was officially recognized in Manitoba. This is an important day. It's about to be more important, don't you think?
I think it's a recognition of the long history that Indigenous personnel have contributed to Canadian military history, dating back centuries, and certainly keeping with those traditions going forward. Indigenous Veterans Day has taken off a great deal in recent years, and that's offered a chance to for people to come together at a monument not far from what we're seeing here in Ottawa, and in places around the country, to reflect on that shared experience of service, notwithstanding some of the challenges, facing Canada and its relationships with Indigenous peoples. And veterans have played a huge part in advocacy for themselves as veterans, but also for their communities upon returning home, as I'm sure we'll find out more about later today.
Okay. Why don't we just take a moment and just soak some of this in?
Ladies and gentlemen, now arriving is the Prime Minister of Canada, the Right Honourable Mark Carney. Mesdames et messieurs, arrivant maintenant le Premier ministre du Canada, le très honorable Mark Carney.
And there you see the convoy carrying the Prime Minister, Mark Carney, and Madam Diana Fox Carney, his wife. This is his first Remembrance Day as Prime Minister.
That's all right. I'll see yours. Yeah, welcome to the ceremony.
Randy's going to...
See, the Prime Minister there was just greeted by Berkeley Lawrence, who we spoke with earlier, the President of the Royal Canadian Legion.
Family history goes back to the First World War. We'll get in place. Keep things on.
These veterans have seen so many prime ministers.
That's right. They enjoy a special place because, of course, it is the government's choice at the end of the day where and when to contribute and what strengths. And they live with the consequences of that.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting to be in a country that is once again talking about rebuilding the military in ways we haven't seen since many of these men fought since the Korean War.
I mean, the Korean War is an apt comparison because of the massive investment in 1951 after years of demobilization and trying to transition back to civilian life after the Second World War. The world wasn't as cooperative, and so you needed to reinvest in defense. And we're seeing, many crises around the world that are, again, changing that calculus about where money is spent and how best to look after and make sure that the Canadian Armed Forces are equipped to do the job that they're being asked to do.
It's a challenge for this country. The promise to spend an additional $8.9 billion is a big promise, but this is a country that still needs to hire the people to do the fighting. So we are a long ways away, it seems.
I think Canada is a country that appreciates its peace and stability, and that's a good thing.
Mrs. Payne of Lansdowne, Ontario, is the mother of the late Corporal Randy Payne. Corporal Randy Joseph Payne served with 1 Garrison Military Police Company based in Wainwright, Alberta. Randy was killed in action in Afghanistan on April 22, 2006, while serving as a member of the very first close protection team assigned to that mission. He died alongside 3 other soldiers when a roadside bomb struck the military G-Wagon they were driving as they returned to Kandahar Airfield from an operating base. Mesdames et Messieurs, la mère nationale de la Croix d'Argent, Madame Nancy Payne, arrive. Madame Payne de Lansdowne, en Ontario, est la mère du regretté caporal Randy Payne. Le caporal Randy Joseph Payne était au service de la première compagnie de police militaire de la BFC Wainwright, en Alberta. Randy est mort au combat en Afghanistan le 22 avril 2006. Il servait au sein du premier équipe de protection rapprochée affecté à cette mission. Il est mort aux côtés de 3 autres soldats lorsque leur véhicule militaire G-Wagon a heurté une bombe en bordure de route. Il retournait vers l'aérodrome de Kandahar depuis une base opérationnelle.
And that is, of course, the lovely Nancy Payne. She was very nervous about this moment, Andrew.
Well, it's a lot of scrutiny to be under, and it's for someone who is an ordinary Canadian who suffered an extraordinary loss. Her son was the 15th Canadian to die in Afghanistan. In those early days in the spring of 2006, as the combat was settling in earnest in Kandahar province. And from a family with a lot of military service. Her husband, David, served for 30 years. Her son, Chris, I believe, 20-year military career. And her grandson, Corporal Payne's son, now a combat engineer. So it's, I think, a real appreciation for military service and a too deep understanding of the sacrifice associated with it.
And you saw her at the War Museum. You were able to give her a bit of a tour, yes?
Yeah, we stopped in and we visited the Canadian Memorial Hall, where we have the headstone of the unknown soldier. We visited the galleries. We looked at our Afghanistan displays, and she was very interested in our First World War history as well.
Oh, good
so
for her.
it was a very interesting visit, and I was grateful to be a part of it.
And so, of course, this is the moment where we normally would be seeing the Governor-General, Mary Simon, emerge from the vehicle. But as you have heard, as we've spoken about, she has been recovering in hospital from a respiratory virus. Everyone wishes her well, and in her stead today is the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, Richard Wagner, who is just arriving right now. And you may have seen getting out of the vehicle was also Whit Fraser, who is Mary Simon's husband, who is also representing her and the family in the position today.
Remembrance Day Parade! Attention! Stand back! East!
Youth, nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. Nice meeting you.
You just saw the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court there saying hello to the Minister of Veterans Affairs, the Speaker of the Senate. This all tells us that we're moments away from the start of the official program, and we'll join you in just stopping and watching and listening in silence here. You will hear the last post and in Flanders Fields, among other staples, as well as a fly past by a single Black Hawk helicopter. There had been plans for CF-18s, but the weather will not permit, so there will just be a single helicopter at the end of the ceremony. Let's have a listen.
Ladies and gentlemen, O Canada, with members of the Central Band of the Canadian Armed Forces and the Ottawa Children's Choir. Mesdames et Messieurs, au Canada, avec les membres de la musique centrale des Forces armées canadiennes et du Chœur des enfants d'Ottawa.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
Ils ne vieilliront pas comme nous, qui leur avons
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
إنه بدأ إنه متى وبقول لك مكتوب يقول إنه بدأ نأخذ أقاعد أكتب جاي إنه متى أقاعد يوم الدو صوت تودي نأتي سكين نبيلك بد تريلك بد ولا كود سكين نويلك بد القوم نأخذ القوم نأخذ بيجو جاني تقول.
Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Mesdames et messieurs, veuillez vous asseoir.
Nous sommes profondément reconnaissants d'être
We
réunis
are
en ce lieu
profoundly
solennel
grateful
de souvenir.
to be gathered together on this
So we
hallowed
pause
ground.
today with those around Canada and the world, each of us coming from different perspectives, faiths, and traditions, to recall together the sacrifices of those who have served before us, and to be inspired by their example of dedication, of courage, and of pride. Nous rendons hommage à ceux et celles
We
qui ont
are paying
répondu à
tribute
l'appel
to
de la
all of those
bataille,
that answered the call to
qui ont
battle
été marqués par ce
and
qu'ils ont
were
vu,
marked by what they
entendu
saw,
et
what
fait
they heard,
au nom
and what
de
they
la
did
liberté
in the name of freedom and hope.
Que cette période où tous
May
les
this
Canadiens et
period,
Canadiennes
where all
sont unis dans la
Canadians
solidarité,
are united in
apporte un peu de
solidarity,
paix
bring
et d'apaisement à
peace
ces personnes
and
et à leurs
solemnity to their families and their lives.
Today reminds us that life and peace are fragile. While we take time to recall our past, let us also recognize the progress and potential that those past sacrifices won for us. And let us look ahead with hope to the promise of a more just society. Nous rendons hommage aux familles
We
des
are
membres
paying
des forces
tribute to the
armées canadiennes.
families of members of the Canadian Armed Forces who gave of themselves, who loved and lost, and without their support, the service of our armed personnel would be
And
impossible.
we offer our gratitude to the Silver Cross Mother and all the families who themselves bear the scars of military service. Their loss is our loss, and we join them in remembrance today and all days.
We support all the leaders of our country and their dedication as they continue to make this world a better place. We ask them to continue to serve with integrity, courage, and wisdom.
On this 25th anniversary of the tomb of the unknown soldier, we ponder here the mystery of life and death and pause to thank those who never came home.
May this place of sacred memory encourage us always to fight for peace in a fractured world.
Lest we forget. N'oublions jamais.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Vice-Regal Party will now begin placing their wreaths. Mesdames et messieurs, le cortège vice-royal déposera maintenant leur couronne.
Feel Today, we gather at this sacred space to honor those who served and those who never came home. Ils se sont battus non seulement pour
They
défendre
fought
un pays, mais pour en le définir.
to
As
save our
Prime
future.
Minister John Diefenbaker once said, "I am Canadian, free to speak without fear, free to worship God in my own way, free to stand for what I think right. Freedom, the right to be oneself." It's a simple idea, but it's what our soldiers gave everything to protect. They fought so we could live free. In the final weeks of the Second World War, Sergeant Léo Major of Quebec carried out a night mission in the occupied Dutch city of Zwolle. When his comrade was killed, he pressed on alone and completed the mission, helping to spare the city from devastation. Afterward, he said simply, "I wasn't fighting for medals. I was fighting so people I did not know could live free." And that is the legacy of the Canadian Armed Forces. From Vimy Ridge to Kandahar, from Juno Beach to Latvia today, nos soldats se sont tenus
Our
debout
soldiers
pour
stood up
affirmer la valeur sacrée
to
de
defend the
chaque
sacred
être
values of every
humain,
human
pour la
being,
conviction que la liberté n'est pas
for
un
the
privilège,
protection
mais la
of our
droit
country.
des
This
naissances de tout le peuple.
is the right of all Canadians.
So we could live free. During the war in Afghanistan, Captain Nicola Goddard became the first Canadian woman to die in combat. She would express in her letters home, "I'm not here because I like war. I'm here because I believe in peace, and peace needs protectors." She was right. Peace needs protectors. And so does freedom, and so does human dignity. Our soldiers have always been those protectors. They have always known that freedom is not only won in battle, it must be lived back at home, in how we treat one another and how we honor those who served. Today and every day, we honor the legacy of our troops, not only with immense, undying gratitude, but by becoming protectors ourselves, safeguarding the freedom, the dignity, and the belonging that are the right of every single Canadian. Today we remember, today we recommit to a Canada as shaped by our heroic Canadian Armed Forces and their courageous families. For they fought so we could live free. May the memory of the fallen be our guiding light. May those who serve today, they and their loved ones, be blessed with safety and strength. And may God grant us the courage to live as they fought, for freedom, for peace, and for the infinite worth of every human soul. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, God Save the King with the Ottawa Children's
Remembrance
Choir.
Day Parade!
Mesdames et messieurs, que Dieu
Mountain!
protège le roi avec le chœur des enfants d'Ottawa. thank you for your attendance at today's National Remembrance Day Ceremony. Today, as a grateful nation, we stand in collective remembrance of all who have fallen in the military service of Canada. May we never forget. Please stay in position for the march-off and departure of the Vice-Regal Party. We will announce when you may enter the site. Merci d'être parmi nous à l'occasion de la cérémonie nationale du Jour du Souvenir. Aujourd'hui est l'occasion où notre nation reconnaissante exprime à l'unisson le souvenir de ceux et celles qui sont morts au service de notre pays. N'oublions jamais. Veuillez rester en place pendant le défilé de sortie et la sortie du cortège vice-royal. Nous annoncerons quand vous pourrez accéder au site.
Remembrance Day Parade will march past and calm the route. Veterans leading. Move to the right and calm the route. Right. March.
Finally, achieving over the past 2 weeks during this year's National Hockey Campaign, the Royal Canadian Legion's Reading Command has been honored to present its virtual hockey drop. It can be seen this year on the Senate building. There will be a continuing presentation of this meeting from 6:30 p.m. to midnight. The hockey drop is also displayed outside the National Arts Centre until midnight this evening. Finalement, nous tenons à mentionner au cours des 2 dernières semaines de notre campagne nationale de cette année, la Légion royale canadienne a eu l'honneur et le privilège de nous offrir chaque soirée une projection spéciale, celle de sa public virtuelle sur l'édifice du Sénat. Il y aura une présentation de clôture en soirée à 18h. L'appui de public sera aussi visible sur la façade du Centre national des arts.
This is my son. Three generations.
We owned it.
Yes.
Nice to meet you. Yeah. You were in
engineers.
Yeah, you engineers.
Yes.
103. So you've seen a few prime ministers over the years. Yes. I'm just the latest. There's a few more left. A few more to come.
Well, as we're approaching the end of the ceremony, you can see there the National Silver Cross Mother, Nancy Payne, next to the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, Richard Wagner, doing the, they're at the saluting base as the parade forms. The veterans move past them. This is a review of the parade. It's one of the duties that is asked of the Silver Cross Mother. This is a very big day for a mom in particular.
And a very important experience for the veterans themselves. You can see young and old in uniform and in veterans organizations, from an RMC cadet, just a veritable whole variety of service from different periods, from the former Yugoslavia to Afghanistan and points beyond. So you can kind of see that carrying forward that tradition in this parade.
And that continuity of service, and we've spent so much time talking about the Second World War today for a very good reason, because of the 80 years since the end of it. And Ashley Burke, who has been with us all day, has an uncanny ability to find the right people at the right place. And I think, Ashley, you have done it again, and you're with one of the other great Canadians who served in that war, correct?
Adrienne, I'm with a 103-year-old Second World War veteran, Elmer Friesen, and his son, Ken, who's here on a cold day. It's his first time here in person. And what did it mean to you to be here in person for the first time?
Well, this is my first time here, and it's been so different from watching it on TV. To just be here, and I was thinking of the guys that I came for, you know, just to remember how we served our, you know, first of all as an electrician, and then as an entertainer, to just to keep up the morale of the civilian population on Eastern Canada. It was a real pleasure serving that way.
You sang, you acted, you were in 2 variety shows, you told me. Tell me about what you did during the war.
Yes, well, I'm sorry, I didn't quite get...
What did you do during the war, and what did that entertainment mean to the troops?
Oh, yes, we did variety shows, and the first one was involved in bond raising, encouraging people to support whatever they needed it for. And then we did a blackface show, and ended up with doing a Gilbert and Sullivan opera. HMS Pinafore. Yes, that's what we did during.
A very different time back then.
Yes.
And Ken, for you, you said you were emotional coming here today. Can you tell me about what this moment means to you?
Well, just bringing my father and supporting him, it makes me emotional, just seeing him and how much it means to him. So, yeah, it's wonderful to bring him along and have a father at 103 years old. So.
What were you thinking about today during the ceremony, and what was it like? Your father just met the Prime Minister, the Chief of Defence Staff. What did they say to your family?
Well, they just wished him all the best and thanked him for his service. And we've been all over the city. People have been thanking him for his service, and he just feels so proud to be here.
What do you want Canadians to know today?
What I want them to know today, I don't know. I was so filled with the ceremonies here, and I just want them to know that war is something you don't want to get involved in. It's something we try and treat our children. I was interviewed by a man who does just that. He makes videos for school children just to make them aware of what war is all about, and to do their very best to never get involved in, to keep peace in the world. Yeah.
And just lastly, during the moment of silence, what did you think about? During the moment of silence, what did you think about?
I thought about the 4 people I came here for. I just sat here and I could actually see them. My brother and my 3 closest friends in the service. And, you know, it was just something special to sit here and think that I'm still around and to worship them. Not worship them, I mean, but remember them. It really got into me, yeah. This is something special. I just didn't know it would be so emotional. You know, I just sat here and thinking about how lucky I am to still be around to celebrate the war that the boys, so many of them were killed, you know, and here I am, still in good health and being able to take part in this ceremony today. It was great, really great. Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing your story with us. That's Elmer Friesen and his son, Ken Adrienne.
Ashley, thank you. And thanks, of course, to Elmer and his son. We're so glad he was able to come. Fascinating that he's at 103. This is his first Remembrance Day, his first time soaking in moments like this one. You're going to start to see people very soon lay their poppies on the tomb of the unknown soldier there. It is a tradition that is as moving as everything that has happened, even when you know intellectually what happens on this day. Elmer's so right. It's so different when you're sitting here and when you're feeling it. And the way he described how you can honor what happened but not celebrate or glorify war. This impulse of veterans to always say to people, you don't want to be a part of this.
103 years old, it makes you think about how much the world has changed in that lifetime, and all that he had seen, and the people that he keeps with him, as he mentioned in his remarks. Also, the importance of entertainment, as you know, your friend Tim would say, the Canadians didn't just fight and die; they lived. They laughed. They celebrated. They wanted to come home, and those that could sometimes had a long time before they could come to grips with their service. I can't believe it's his first time here at the cenotaph, but you know, it did take some veterans a long time before they're ready to take this in. It was too much, and it may still be too much for a number of veterans, understandably.
Well, this will stay with him. So as we look at these pictures too, you have the again, there is Nancy Payne. This is a woman most people would not have known before today, and they will have seen a lot of her, and that is exactly how it should be. As we watch the picture of the VARPs starting to sort of leave the area, let's go back into the crowds, because yes, it was the first time Elmer was here, but it's also the first time for many of the people in the crowds. And yes, it's a cold day, but it's the least Canadians can do is to show up, and they have in pretty big numbers today.
Terrific.
So, David Thurton, as we watch Nancy Payne leave the National War Memorial, what are you thinking? And talk to me about the crowds you've encountered today.
Hey, Adrienne. Well, yeah, you know, you're certainly right. People have come from quite a distance to be here for the first time, many people here for the national ceremonies for Remembrance Day. I want to introduce you to a mom and her daughter Coraline, and also Rebecca, originally from the United States, but now living in Edmonton. What brought you here, all the way here from Edmonton to the nation's capital for Remembrance Day?
Yeah, we actually just got our citizenship about a year ago, and we had never been to Ottawa before, so we thought we'd come on out, and what better time to come than on Remembrance Day to see the nation's capital.
And did it live up to its expectations?
You know, it definitely did. In spite of the cold weather, the snow made for a beautiful backdrop, and the city decked out with red poppies. It has lived up to the expectation.
And Coraline, You're probably freezing right now, are you?
Yes, I'm freezing.
Okay, just a little while longer and you'll get to go warm up, hopefully. What did you make of today's ceremonies?
Well, I thought it was really neat to see how it worked and seeing all these people who've come to pay their respects.
You know what, thank you too for chatting with us. Congratulations on your citizenship. You're now a Canadian. Thanks so much. Adrienne, just some folks in the crowd, just to give you a sense of how far they've come from Edmonton. Originally they're American, but now they're Canadian, and excited to be part of the ceremonies here this year.
Fantastic. Welcome to the team. That's great, David. Thanks very much. I want to ask you, Andrew, about something that Elmer was talking about, which is raising money for the bonds. We've heard lots of talk in the last little while about, Canada on a war footing in the past, raising money for the bonds. Can you walk people through what happened there?
Yeah, absolutely. So during both World Wars, there was essentially a community fundraising effort to enhance the ability of Canada to respond, to send, to finance the war, essentially. There was perhaps not the same tax base at that time, or certainly not the same tax regimen. And so there was this need to raise funds to support the war effort. And that was done through selling stamps door to door, young boys and girls going around, salvage drives to bring in scrap and excess fat, that sort of stuff, to help to actually fuel the war machine, literally in some cases.
Excess fat?
Fat from the kitchen to make explosives so we have recycling programs now. They had a really enhanced recycling program then because of the emergency of it. And so the urgency of it, the fact that so many Canadians, you mentioned at the top 10% of the population, in uniform, there were a lot of community connections and a lot of ways that people were trying to support the war, and they would do that through annual victory loans and victory bonds, and these would be kind of guaranteed and paid back at a future time. But this was a response to the wartime emergency and the mad scramble of mobilizing Canada for a full-scale war, when just short years before they had maybe enough artillery shells for a 20-minute battle. So and becoming one of the more sizable forces on the European theater and elsewhere. So you had this community a national response, and that was of course paired with other things like sending books to soldiers overseas, knitting socks, anything to bring people home sooner, I think was the entire goal. And that had big concerts, it had displays of captured material or newly produced weapons such as artillery or aircraft to show what those funds were going towards and what they were doing, and they raised an enormous amount of funds doing that.
It's no wonder people who were at home not only worried about their family members overseas, but I've often written about the sense of togetherness that can be sort of hard to imagine, but that makes perfect sense. One of the most touching moments of the day is underway as we speak. We're talking about that moment where people start to lay their poppies on the tomb of the unknown soldier. This happens every year. To the gravesite of one Canadian soldier in particular to lay down these poppies. They don't know his name. No one knows his name. Canada's unknown soldier returned 25 years ago. He has been showered with respect and with thanks ever since. The solemn homecoming began in Vimy, France. The remains of the unknown Canadian killed in the First World War draped in the flag and sent home.
We do not know where he was born, who his family was, or what his dreams were.
He lay in state as Canadians paid their respects, then was laid to rest at the foot of the National War Memorial, a hero's funeral for a soldier who spent more than 80 years in a grave marked simply known unto God.
Although he lost his life on the battlefield of a foreign land, he is Canada's lost son no more.
So let's bring in CBC Senior Defense Correspondent Murray Brewster. Murray, you've been examining this anniversary and what technology means for the tradition of unknown soldiers. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Well, the tradition goes back to about the 1920s. That's when the Tomb of the Unknown Warrior was established in the UK, followed not long afterwards by the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier underneath the Arc de Triomphe in Paris, the United States. But this has been mostly a phenomenon of the 1920s, and it was established first of all so that people whose loved ones had gone off to war and not come back had a place to mourn and to grieve those who were buried overseas, those who were among the tens of thousands of missing and unidentified. So, but over the years, as 50 countries have adopted this this practice, you see the practice evolving into one of a representation of sacrifice, and this is what we're seeing today.
So when new remains are found, and they are still being found all these years later, there's work to identify the new remains. But why important to never identify the unknown soldier?
Well, the Commonwealth War Graves Commission makes it a matter of regulation that if you're going to accept an unknown soldier, then that unknown soldier must remain unknown in perpetuity. And because the unknown soldier is a symbol, it's a symbol of sacrifice. It is a symbol of all of the people who have served and gone off to war. Now, that, however, is something that is changing in society now, because you do have casualty identification units. Canada is among one of the leading nations in terms of trying to reclaim soldiers who are found in unknown graves or bodies that have been uncovered by construction, etc. And through DNA technology. And we have a society today that is very, we want to know. We want to know what's happened to our loved ones. And this program gives them, the soldiers, their names back and their stories back. And it's the Casualty Identification Unit has identified 36 soldiers, mostly from the First World War, but they've also put names to the graves of 12 unknown soldiers buried overseas.
So as we watch, Murray, sort of people starting to file past, it's still very quiet, even though there's so many people here. This day is evolving. Remembrance Day is evolving. You've covered so many of these, and we keep losing more of the Korean War veterans, Second World War veterans. How do you see it shifting?
Well, this is one of the reasons why I wanted to write the piece about the unknown soldier, because Afghanistan marked a departure point in Canada's wartime history. Our casualties came home. They weren't buried overseas. And Canadian society, technology, our sensibilities have evolved. And as I was saying earlier, I'm not sure necessarily that Canadians today would necessarily accept any of their sons and daughters or brothers or sisters or fathers being left unknown, being left without a name, being left without a story. And I mean, we're looking at some photographs right now of that a former colleague of mine from the Canadian Press, Stephen Thorne, shot during his time in Afghanistan. And he shot many photos of Canadian soldiers. He put the names and the faces in front of Canadians so that we would remember the sacrifices that they have made and the people who have gone into harm's way for all of us. So yeah, it's incredible. I'm sure Andrew would back me up on this, but because these photographs are from the Glimpse of War exhibit at the War Museum. But that's what it's all about. It's about telling the story of the soldiers and telling the story of the sacrifice.
And making it connect.
And making it connect with Canadians.
Absolutely, which you always do. Murray, thank you. So Murray's full story on the legacy of this kind of memorialization airs tonight on the National. Right now, let's head back to Ashley Burke.
Hi, Adrienne. I'm with retired warrant officer Ralph Story, his son Ed, and his grandson Charles. And you were telling me that you are now the face of veterans. What do you mean by that?
Well, yeah, for the most part, the Second War veterans and the Korean veterans have now passed on. So what you have is you have the NATO and the UN veterans and the Afghanistan veterans that now are, as I say, the face of Canadian veterans. And they run all age groups, from my father, it's his birthday today, and he's 88. I'm in my 60s, and my son, he's in his 30s. And so the whole group of today's veterans runs the gambit of ages.
And your son's still serving. And I want to talk about your time in the forces. You served during the Cold War. You were 17 years old when you were in Germany, a sapper. Tell me, what do you remember from that time?
Oh, I remember the good times of comradeship with the guys. You had older people and younger people, and it was a good time. You worked hard, dressed the way they told you, did what you were told to do, and it was very, very good.
Is there one memory that you have there that you think about still, all these years later?
Just about the guys you served with, and how good it was when you think back. And thinking back and thinking ahead, I think everybody should have, if they're fit and able, should have to do a term in the military. You learn so many skills that are really, really good for you later on in life.
What did you take away from it and learn that you want to share with Canadians?
Be proud of your country. Treat people well. And live a good life.
During this ceremony today, what were you thinking about and reflecting on?
I was thinking back to my time in Afghanistan and how I think I was at 3 ramp ceremonies. But I also thought back to when I was in Yugoslavia 30 years ago. I was there for a year, and we had 6 guys killed back then. And they came home in... It was totally anonymous for those casualties to come home, and how things have changed. How we're more open to remembering the fallen and paying respect to them, especially when they come back from theater.
How is the face of Remembrance Day and veterans really changing now?
Well, they're all, like I've said before, they're all younger. You can run into an Afghanistan veteran that'll be in his 30s, and the Second War guys and the Korea guys, most of them have passed away. So today's veterans are much younger, and they've had different missions, whether it's NATO, UN, all different types of humanitarian operations. There's quite a diversity in the veterans.
And what's your message to younger generations today?
Enlist if you can. Behave yourself. Be a good citizen. Live a good life.
From your perspective, you were talking earlier about why you want people to enlist. Can you tell us more about why you think that's important?
Well, it teaches personal discipline, which a lot of don't get at home in this day and age. It teaches you a lot of skills that are good to you in the military and in civilian life as well. And you learn to get along with people. It's not you do your homework and you go, this sort of thing. It's you're with the guys 24/7. So that's another thing. You can teaches you better to socialize in all walks of life.
Thank you for telling us your story. So you've got 3 generations here, grandfather, his son, and his son, all here for the ceremony today, talking about what it meant to them.
Ashley, thank you. And so on the right side of your screen, as you see people, this is really moving. It's a very thick crowd of people quietly, ever so quietly, placing their poppies on the tomb of the unknown soldier. As you were listening, you were chuckling away as you were listening. You know all those people that Ashley just interviewed.
I haven't met Ed's son, but I've met Ed and Ralph a number of times. Ed's a longtime supporter of the Friends of the Canadian War Museum and has a frequent face at the Canadian War Museum. We've had a lot of nice chats over the years about history, and what he may have not told you is that he was involved in the repatriation of the monuments at Camp Mirage and at Canada Airfield when the mission wound down. And also had the very odd perspective of going back through archival files and seeing Ed's dispatch records going to Yugoslavia. So it's we've had a lot of fun talks about history, and he's a real friend of history. And so is his dad, and you see that tradition throughout Canada where grandfathers, fathers, sons, extended families are having that experience of service, and same with the Silver Cross Mother.
Absolutely, generational service. Now, as we were looking at the tomb of the unknown soldier, and again, these are the crowds of people getting ready to place their poppies on the tomb, we want to show you something else connected to the unknown soldier, something special that unfolded in the last hour here in Ottawa. There's a space called Memorial Hall in the Canadian War Museum, and that's where the headstone of the unknown soldier is on display, and it bears the simple words, "Known unto God." There is a small window in the hall, and every year at the 11th hour, on the 11th day of the 11th month, the sun lines up and the headstone is illuminated. Even on a day like today, cloudy and gray, there is a little more light than any other day. And you can see people place their poppies on that headstone, as they also do on his tomb. Andrew, this idea of the light on the headstone is an astonishingly beautiful idea. Where did this come from?
Well, this, I think, was the brainchild of the one of the architects of the museum, Raymond Moriyama, who's sadly passed away, as a space for people to come and reflect and have a solemn reflection on what they're going to see elsewhere in the displays. Because the other parts of the displays, there's audio, there's video, there's lots of things happening, there's crowds. That's a more quiet space for reflection. And it actually features the unknown, the headstone there is the unknown soldier who's interred at the National War Memorial, taken from Cabaret Rouge Cemetery near Vimy Ridge. And it is a spot where that decision to have that light, a light squarely on there for the 2 minutes of silence, weather permitting, is a way of focusing our attention on the fact that that's what Remembrance Day is for, is that it's a tangible reminder of the cost of war. Over the last century, 120,000 Canadians have gone to war and not returned. And the practice of laying poppies afterwards, much like what we're seeing on the main feed right now, that was a spontaneous thing that people began to do after observing the ceremonies there. Not something that was prompted, but has since become a tradition. And you will find personal reflections, poems, photographs left behind in the days around Remembrance Day that are just so touching. And a real reminder that it's not just a national history, it's a family history, it's a community history, and that's embodied through people's presence and their mindfulness and setting down that and reflecting on it. And the fact that there's such a bustle to get up to the tomb of the unknown soldier reflects how much there is that desire to reflect on service and to pay some small gesture to thanking people for laying down their lives for this country.
I mean, it's interesting because what you're talking about is the evolution of remembrance, how different generations sort of take a hold of that duty and shape it in a way that makes sense to them. And I would imagine that because we're in an era where we're losing so many vets, a place like the War Museum actually is probably on the receiving end of diaries and artifacts. And I know that's something Tim Cook was borderline obsessed with looking at the diaries. And I'm wondering have you had a chance to look at some? Are we still learning things we didn't know because of those diaries?
We are always learning, not just because of the diaries, because of the oral histories, the accounts we've heard today. The importance of capturing those stories before those veterans are gone is enormously important. But we can always learn more because the war diaries contain a little part of the picture. The personal diaries contain another part. The letters home to families contain another part. It all makes a big picture that you can get to understand what it means to be at war, to leave your family behind for an undefined period, not knowing where you're going to come back. You don't know how the kids are doing. Nowadays, of course, you're connected via the internet. You can know if your water heater fails in the same way as you're going out for exercises. So there is this enormous importance of documenting. And people, if you're out there and you've got an experience, write it down, because it's so important to people like me to be able to go back and retrieve that, find it, and then help to set the scene. What was going on at that time? What were the concerns, the fears, the hopes? That's what makes it so vital and what Tim was so good at, frankly.
Absolutely. So we've been talking a lot today, as you know, about how remembrance is an act, and it's an act that requires work and sometimes fortitude in the face of a whole lot of adversity. Our next two guests have spent a considerable amount of their time over their lifetimes working to ensure that people across this country understand the sacrifices made and the hardships endured by Indigenous veterans. Randy Gage has spent more than 30 years working as an advocate on behalf of Indigenous veterans. John Moses is the former Director of Repatriation and Indigenous Relations at the Canadian Museum of History, who has also spent considerable time sharing his family's stories. And so welcome to both of you. And John, if I may, I'd love to start with you, because you've spent so much of your working life collecting the stories of Indigenous veterans, many of whom, as I understand it, had a really tough time when they returned home. But you've really focused on telling your father's story. What was it like for him, John, to come home after he served?
Wasego Skinagawaga. Yes, my name is John Moses, and speaking in relation to my father's service record, he's one of those Indigenous servicemen of Canada who, in addition to being a military member, was also a residential school survivor. So it's interesting, over the past several years now, that we've had September 30th set aside as the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. And soon on the heels of that is Remembrance Day, and then also November the 8th is National Indigenous Veterans Day. It's an opportunity to think about some of those particular circumstances that applied to Indigenous people in Canada. And for me, that includes that link between residential school attendance and later military service, which was the situation with my father. He was at the Mohawk Institute Indian Residential School under exceptionally severe wartime and post-war conditions from 1942 until 1947. And by 1950, he's a member of the Royal Canadian Navy en route to service in the Korean War aboard HMCS Iroquois.
And when he came home, John, what was his life like when he came home?
Well, these were some of the circumstances, unfortunately, after, having served abroad, fighting for the liberty of other nations overseas. They come back to a situation where here in Canada, wherein they're still not afforded the same rights and benefits accorded other Canadian citizens. And in his particular situation, for example, there is one unfortunate circumstance when he's home on leave on the Six Nations Reserve in December of 1952, is actually refused service in a tavern in the small town of Hagersville near the Six Nations Reserve. So it's one of those situations where you're good enough to serve in uniform overseas in combat, but you come back to a situation in Canada where unfortunately you're still treated as a second-class citizen.
Yeah, you're in a battle of a different kind. Randy, you have in your work with Indigenous veterans groups, both in Manitoba and nationally, spoken to so many Indigenous veterans. What do you want people to know about what so many of them endured?
Well, first of all, Buju, Megasikwe Indigenous, Agichitakwe Mong Dodum. This world is Randy. The stories I've heard have been disgusting, to put it into simple language. The treatment, the simplest thing of having served for however many years they were in Europe together, coming back with their comrades on the ship, getting on the train to come back to Winnipeg. And when they step off of the train in Winnipeg, they're suddenly damn Indians again. Being told to walk home while everybody else is getting a ride to wherever they're going. The stories just go on and on and on, and it's that's what got me going into this stuff, because I married into Peguis Reserve, and I didn't know all this history until I started talking with some of the community members, and they found out I was a veteran, and wow, so we started, and I just couldn't sit back and be quiet. And when I seen the, I don't know how to say this without getting in trouble. When they were doing the reports and things to the Senate and to different places, watching how the people in charge were trying to intimidate the veterans, or for one, the women's organization that was making it a presentation to the Senate. The fear of speaking up because something would happen to their family back home if they didn't say the right thing. It's just been 30 years of heartbreaking stories that one day, John, we have to talk.
Yes, I bet. Do you think, Randy, from your research, that some people were re-enlisted because, in a way, to be back in war almost felt better to be back at home? I mean, am I imagining that, or was that a reality?
No, ma'am, you're not imagining that. Tommy Prince is one, everybody knows who Tommy is. I mean, Tommy was one of the most highly decorated Canadian soldiers there was or is. He got his medal from the King. He came home as a sergeant. He was honored. He was, everything was good till he got home. And he did get a little piece of land, and he did get a little money to start his little business. But everything failed because his community wouldn't buy from him, because he was now seen as mainstream, because he had to sign away his treaty. And the farmers that he wanted to have the barbed wire and the nails and things for wouldn't buy from him because he was an effing Indian. So he said, man, this disrespect, I've had it. And he went back and joined up again for Korea and became even more highly decorated. One of the things that, with Tommy, one of the things that I see is he's like Canada's Ira Hayes. I mean, Ira Hayes put the flag up at Iwo Jima. He was a highly, highly respected soldier, but he died in a ditch in the desert because nobody gave a bloody heck about him. And Tommy, the same thing. He died in the back lane in Winnipeg because nobody gave a heck about him. So there's so many stories. There's so many things that really need to come out. I made a presentation a few days ago and had a lady crying her eyes out because she was so upset that her generation had done this to soldiers, because she came from a military family. She never knew the treatment that Indigenous soldiers got. So, yeah, it's wild, yeah.
There's a lot of work left to do. John, what's your sense of what this country still needs to do to recognize those sacrifices of Indigenous vets?
Well, I think it's an interesting point, especially around September the 30th of each year. As as an Indigenous person, as a Native person, I'm often asked, well, what does reconciliation mean to you, or mean to me as a Native person? And I have to say, well, reconciliation really rests with mainstream non-Indigenous Canadians to reconcile themselves as to what the true history of the country really is, whereas Indigenous persons like myself and families like my own, to the extent we're willing to do so, we provide the truth-telling aspect of what went on. And if I might say, my father's own circumstance, notwithstanding the tragic circumstances of his residential school upbringing, it was something that he never hid it, certainly, but neither did he dwell upon it. In addition to his residential school upbringing, he was a decorated naval veteran of the Korean War and a veteran of the Royal Canadian Air Force as well. He was 5 years in the RCN, 1950 to 55, and then 10 years in the Air Force from 55 to 65.
Well, John, thank you on so many levels for the service, your family service, your service to keeping these stories alive. Randy, thank you for all the work you've done into making Indigenous Veterans Day on November the 8th a reality. And we have a sense of you, Randy. You are not done yet. There is more work. No, I get that feeling. Both of you, thank you very, very much.
You're welcome. Thank you. Yahweh.
Let's go back now to Lisa Shing, who is at the York Cemetery in Toronto.
Adrienne, the York Cemetery ceremony has just wrapped up. I'm joined here by Lydia Sy and Alex Adams. For both of you, it's your first time at this particular ceremony. Why come here today?
Well, I heard that there was going to be a traditional ceremony here, but one that is maybe a bit less crowded than the downtown one at Old City Hall. And I really like this cemetery, nice place, so I thought I would check it out.
And what about you, Lydia? This is your first time as an adult at a Remembrance Day ceremony.
Yes, so I was talking to Alex about Remembrance Day and telling him that it was one of my favorite assemblies when I was in elementary school, and he told me about this event, and I was very excited to come here. Also, I have family members who are buried in this cemetery, so it's a special place for me to come here and visit my family and also participate in this ceremony.
And Alex, for you as well, it's something that you started up again, coming to these ceremonies as an adult. Why?
Well, I feel that there's no ceremony like this. Like, there's nothing else in the calendar that's quite like this, and it's a unique ceremony. I like how it brings history together, helps us remember our history. And I like how it feels like it's bringing the country together. Like, even during this ceremony, when the part at the end, they even like listed all these institutions, and they say, okay, you bring up your wreath, you bring up your wreaths. And it's like this ceremonial way of sort of bringing all the different parts of society together. So I feel kind of like refreshed and renewed as a Canadian.
And what about you, Lydia?
Sorry, what was the question?
What stands out to you? What prompts you to come out here and remember?
Just the feeling of being a proud Canadian and loving this country and wanting to pay my respects to the veterans and everyone who sacrificed themselves so that we could have the freedom and peace and harmony that we have here today. And I really cherish being in this country.
Thank you both so much. Adrienne, Lydia Sy, and Alex Adams, who have chosen to come and mark Remembrance Day here at York Cemetery. Newcomers to this particular ceremony, among many others who have been here before.
Lisa, thank you. That is the evolution of remembrance. And it all rests with the next generations, which is why we're going to head back to Deanna Sumanak-Johnson, who's at Garth Webb Secondary School. As always on this day, with the kids, the ones we all entrust to carry this forward. Deanna?
Adrienne, you know, one of my favorite assignments that we do all year long, and we got a chance to witness all the Remembrance Day ceremonies that they do at this wonderful school named after a Juno Beach veteran. And one of the exercises they did was they got to research, to go through firsthand historical material and research soldiers, actual Canadian soldiers who died in combat. And with me now, I have Daniela Fratrick. She's a grade 10 student. And Daniela researched quite a bit on one soldier. And what did you learn about? Give us his name and what you learned about him.
So my soldier's name was Erwin Henry Miller. He was a German-Canadian soldier who joined at the age of 18 and died at 21, just close to Normandy, France. And he was the second son of his parents in a family of 5. And he left school at the age of 15, my age, which was very shocking to find out. And he also worked as a farm laborer during his lifetime.
Tell me a little bit about that connection. I think people will think, you know, you guys are the social media generation. You don't have, you're too young to have living grandparents who would have fought in the wars. Tell me a little bit about finding out how like you he was in some way. How did it change your sense of connection?
I really do feel a sense of connection to Erwin. Like I said, he was my age when he left school, and I can't imagine leaving now with all that I have to learn. And it's truly really sad to think about how young they were when they were in this war and all the horrors that they experienced. And I wrote actually a thank you note on my shipping tag to thank him for all this, like all that he did and the sacrifices he made.
Thank you so much, Daniela. There you go, Adrienne. Just one of so many thoughtful answers when we talk to people born in 2010, as Daniela just pointed out, about the deep connection they feel to these events of the Second World War. Adrienne.
Yeah, that's really lovely. Thank Daniela for us, and thank you, Deanna. So, as we've mentioned, it is now 80 years since the end of the Second World War, And so after decades of honoring those who died in battle, we're also losing the survivors. And that includes Elsa Lessard, a force, a spark, a member of the group of women known as the Listeners, women who helped defeat the Nazis. Elsa Lessard was one of a kind.
Let me look at you.
Thanks, Elsa. Full of purpose and energy, and after years of being forced to keep her war work secret.
Voila!
Wow. She was full of stories. As a member of the Women's Royal Canadian Naval Service, known as the Wrens, her mission was to catch encrypted messages being sent by German submarines.
All the shipping that's up and down the waters are forever sending messages, and you have to find your U-boat.
Those messages helped crack Germany's Enigma code. After the war, after she could talk about the work she and the other women did, Elsa put her hand up to tell the story. Whoa! Hers was a light that shone bright. Elsa Lessard died this summer at the age of 103. Now, a new honor. Just a few days ago, in the lead up to Remembrance Day, a street sign unveiled in her memory.
When people look up at the street sign, I hope they'll be curious about who this remarkable woman was.
Elsa Lessard was one of our favorite people. There was a chair for her today. I can tell you that had she been here, she would have been at the front of that parade. So, as we get towards the end of this, I do want to go back out to David Thurton, because the ceremony's over, but people are still here. They're still laying their wreaths. They are not going home. David?
Hey, Adrienne, what's remarkable, of course, about this ceremony is that this year marks 25 years since the installation of the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. And I have a guest with me who was here when it was installed back in May of the year 2000. And, 25 years later, just what's on your mind, having been at that ceremony and now at, 25 years of this thing that is so remarkable and part of our Remembrance Day ceremonies here in Ottawa?
Well, when the rabbi was speaking, he was speaking about freedom, and right away I thought of the Ukrainian word volia, and I just remember the cart being brought in horses, and it was brought here, and I was hearing the music. I can't say exactly what the music was, but it was so beautiful. There were these beautiful laments, and it was a beautiful procession. And I thought, 25 years. Anyways, I'm honored that this is here. That we
means a lot to the city, doesn't it, and the country.
Well, it's this action of bringing our poppies on Remembrance Day, to put that on this tomb. Many people have served. Many people have died for our country, for other countries. I honor these people today.
And Nadia, I might have forgotten to introduce you. It's Nadia Zeland, is who I'm joined with, and you are a well-known activist within the Ukrainian community here in Ottawa.
Not a well-known activist, but I act. Yes,
you act.
I live in Ottawa. I act. There's a war in Ukraine. Russians have invaded, and I live in Ottawa. I have the pleasure of living in Ottawa, and I do what I can do. I'm with a group that goes to the Russian embassy. I'm Ukrainian Canadian, born in Canada, but my parents are from Ukraine, and there's an active war going on, so I'm in tears for the past 3 years. There's wars going on all over the world, but this is a tragedy.
Okay.
And
most certainly that conflict on your mind, and I thank you so much for joining us here, Nadia. Adrienne, I'll send it back to you.
David, thank you, and thank you for introducing us to all those people today. That woman who, for her 60th birthday, decided to go to 60 cenotaphs and keep records of all of them. It's incredible, and I mean, as is the reality of this terrible thing about humanity, that we're very good at starting wars and we were very bad at stopping them.
Absolutely. We live in a very unquiet world, as the last speaker reminded us, that there are challenges all over the world, and we open our newspapers or check our feeds every day and there's something new, but there are also so many people whose job it is professionally to go and handle them. And right now there are 2,000 Canadians in Latvia. There are people who are involved in training some of the members of the Ukrainian Armed Forces, smaller numbers in peacekeeping operations, and people ready to deploy at a moment's notice to emergencies here in Canada. And today is a good opportunity to stop and reflect on that we are in a blessed place. We have a lot of safety and security, and that was purchased in part by an enormous amount of work and hardship and sacrifice that those who did it hold in their hearts every day, and that we get a chance to see a little bit of it on days like today.
You know what I didn't expect to see today? In my heart, I didn't think that we would see 103-year-olds, 104-year-olds actually showing up on this wintry day. It must be impressive to you, too.
Very much so, although I've traveled with some veterans of advanced age, and they are real troopers when it comes to bearing witness and caring for that message of remembrance, whether it's here or in Korea or in Cyprus and other places. It's just extraordinary.
They've always been made of tougher stuff than the rest of us. It's been such a pleasure to be with you today. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Thank you very much, Andrew. And thank you so much for joining us for these special moments. We are genuinely honored to bring you this program. And please join us for more special coverage tonight on The National, including more on the powerful bonds made between veterans, old and young, and much more on the future of the tradition of the unknown soldier. This program will replay on CBC News Network tonight at 5 p.m. Eastern. And so as we say goodbye, we mark one more milestone, the 110th anniversary of John McCrae's In Flanders Fields. More than a century later, it is still taught in schools across this country as children learn about the horrors of war and the sacrifices made by those who've come before them. So why don't we all have a listen as students from grade 4 to 7 at Mount Royal School in Brampton, Ontario, recite those famous words. Thank you so much for joining us.
In Flanders Fields, the poppies blow between the crosses, row on row. That marks a place, and in the sky,
the larks still bravely singing fly.
Scarce heard amid the guns below.
We are the dead.
Short days ago, we lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow.
Loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders Fields.
Take up our quarrel with the foe.
To you from failing hands we throw.
The torch be yours to hold it high.
If ye break faith with us who die.
We shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders Fields.